So England have just played 2 friendlies, one against Germany and one against Brazil, both 0-0. I think it's fair to agree they weren't the most scintillating, entertaining games, but let's talk about some of the players that did play well, some of the promising signs that came out of those games, and some of the players that might make the plane for the 23-man squad for the Russian World Cup. So first things first then, I think it's fair to say that a lot of England fans have quite a negative attitude towards the international team for various reasons. One reason is because we love to moan as English people, we're never really happy. Actually 3 reasons. The second reason is because of the media and the sort of things that get pumped into our brains about the English team. Rooney's out shagging grannies, all this sort of nonsense. The relationship between the fans and the players aren't quite there. Then the third reason is because we have done absolutely shite at recent tournaments. However, there are some positives that have come out of recent England performances. One, Gareth Southgate seems to have forged a pathway for young players, and it's outside of club football. You know, at one point we were saying we need to go into the Championship now because there's not enough English players getting chances for Premier League clubs. But now Southgate seems to have forged this pathway where it's like you come through the England youth levels, you play for England maybe once or twice, and then the clubs go, oh, hang on a minute, we've got a good player here, and then maybe they get some game time and it works out best for both England and for the club. So that's an interesting concept that I think Southgate has to take a lot of credit for. We were the first team to qualify along with Germany out of the UEFA group stages, which is again something to be very, very proud of. But I think when we get these achievements, because we have such a high expectation and it's a bit off of reality, we don't really tend to, you know, take a seat back and just sort of go, yeah, you know what, that was a really, really good thing that we just did. That was a really great accomplishment. We don't do it because we think we should be winning everything all the time. And we just, like I said, we love to moan. So I personally think to get those home draws against Germany and against Brazil without Lallana, Sterling, Kane, Ali, Cahill, Henderson, Welbeck and Butland, if you want to include those sort of fringe players as well. We have had pretty much a B team out. Youthful players, promising future players, along with a few first team players that may or may not be there come the time we go to Russia. So to get 0-0 draws is very, very promising. It shows we've got a promising pool of players. When we get to the tournament though, will we show up? My guess is probably not. The reasons for that, I've already mentioned a couple of them. But I just think that we always bottle it at tournaments. I really, really hope we don't. I'll be supporting us throughout the entire tournament. I'm not going to Russia, but I think the attitude and the mindset of fans is going to be key. We have to not believe, because we always believe, but we have to not get on the players' backs if we don't put in a good performance. I mean, look at Italy. We could be them right now. Look at Holland. We could be them right now. Not qualified for the first time since, I think, 54. It was Italy, and the Netherlands, obviously, have made a few World Cup finals in recent years, and they're not there either. So anyway, this is just giving me a little bit of a chance to vent my sort of opinion on how England is shaping and how the future for England looks. I really am intrigued to see how we do in a tournament. But without further ado, let's get to the meat of the video, which is me predicting, based on the recent performances, what the World Cup squad for Russia will be. So what you can see in front of you now then is the squad that I predicted to go to Russia back at the beginning of the season, before a ball had even been kicked in fact, and I'm going to highlight in red now some players that I think maybe haven't given a good enough account of themselves, some players that haven't come on as much as I hoped, and we're going to change them for some players that have maybe been on better form and that maybe have a bit of a better shout now or a bit closer to that World Cup. First of all, Fraser Forster, I'm going to swap him out and I'm going to put Jordan Pickford in. That's purely because I think Forster hasn't been amazing in terms of form. Hart and Butland, I think, are going to be the number 1 and number 2. Hart's clearly been shown a lot of faith by Gareth Southgate despite some of his recent poor performances in tournaments. And Butland, I think, is probably our most technically gifted goalkeeper in the squad when he's fit. And if he's fit, I think he'll go. Next up, I've got Nathaniel Clyne in red. He's obviously been injured, so it's been difficult for him. But Kieran Trippier and Ashley Young are knocking on the door. They really have made it more difficult for Clyne to get his position back. Don't even know if Clyne's going to get straight back into that Liverpool squad when he gets fit, with Gomez and Alexander-Arnold playing so well. I've said that Walker, Cahill and Stones will be safe because they've pretty much all been getting game time for their teams. Walker's probably going to win the Premier League this season. Cahill is a European champion and Premier League champion, and Stones is that ball-playing, futuristic centre-back that England want. Speaking of that kind of centre-back, I am going to put in Joe Gomez ahead of Michael Keane. I think Michael Keane's been okay. He's got in the squads, but he hasn't played brilliantly this season for Everton. And a similar situation with Chris Smalling. He hasn't been as good this season or last season really as he was the previous season when he was was one of the first defenders on the team sheet for England. So he's going to go out for Harry Maguire, who has been very good for Leicester and has been very good for England as well in the last couple of performances. Rose, Bertrand and Henderson I think will all go if they're fit. Eric Dyer as well. Loftus-Cheek was my wild card last time, and he certainly hasn't done any harm to his chances with that performance against Germany and the early sort of 10-15 minutes against Brazil as well. Dele Alli I think is a given. Lallana's been injured for a while, but I think if he comes back and starts playing football for Liverpool, he'll be fine. Sterling, top scorer for Manchester City, who I think are going to win the league this season, has done no harm for his chances at all. Probably our first winger on the team sheet. Then we have Oxlade-Chamberlain, Redmond and Rooney all in red, who I don't think will necessarily get on the plane. Obviously Rooney definitely won't because he's retired. Redmond hasn't come on as much as I hoped he would for Southampton this season, and nor has Oxlade-Chamberlain after his transfer to Liverpool really. So considering we played a 2 up front formation yesterday, we might need to bring an extra striker, so I'm going to get rid of Wayne Rooney and put in Jamie Vardy. I'm going to get rid of Redmond and put in Danny Welbeck, and believe it or not, I'm going to get rid of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and put Damari Gray in instead as a bit of a wild card again, but I think he's going to have a very, very good season for Leicester and really be in contention come May for the England squad. So then we've got Harry Kane and Marcus Rashford, who are 2 of the first names on the team sheet in my opinion. Then at the bottom is my most difficult one, which is Daniel Sturridge. I think he is probably our second most technically gifted striker after Kane these days, but he just does get injured a lot. I think if he plays for Liverpool and scores a few goals, he'll be there. If not, then he could be looking at losing his place out to someone like Solanke or Abraham. Probably more likely to be Abraham, to be honest. So for now, I'm just going to turn Daniel Sturridge back to blue because I think he might well make it if he does play well for the rest of the season. Bearing in mind as well, he has scored in our last 2 tournaments, once against Italy in the World Cup and obviously that winner against Wales. So there you have it. That's my new look England team prediction for the World Cup. Bearing in mind it's still only November 2017. We literally have 6 or 7 months of football to play before we even get to the tournament, so a lot of things could change. So clearly I've left out quite a few players. You know, Phil Jones, I don't know why. I think maybe him and Maguire might be tussling for a position there. Jones has been very good, so he was a very difficult one to leave out. Probably if I went back and did it again right now, I'd probably put him in over Maguire, but he was one. Then you've got Wiltshire, you've got other players that definitely could be knocking on the door. There's just so many factors in the future that can come into play before that squad gets announced and before we actually go off to Russia and are set on our merry way. But make sure you leave your comment down below of what you think about the England squad and the international sort of future, the landscape, and what do you think needs to change about England in order for us to go to tournaments and actually be considered real competitors once again. Do you think we already are real big competitors for Russia with Kane, Ali, Sterling, all these really high quality players that we've got at our disposal? Is it enough? Make sure you leave your comments down below. Make sure you leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. And sweet